They folded the flag in perfect triangles and handed it to me, like it was the only thing left of her. I didn't cry, I just nodded, took it, and walked away with my spine straight, because I knew she would have done the same. That was 3 hours before I boarded the plane back to LA from Ramstein. Before takeoff, I opened the family group chat, just typed a single line. Landing at 3:10, anyone free to pick me up? Didn't need fanfare, didn't ask for a banner or tears, just a ride, just a presence. My brother replied first. We're swamped, try Uber. 2 minutes later, my mom chimed in. You should have planned ahead. No, how was the funeral? No, are you okay? Not even a we miss her, just that, clean, cold, like they'd been waiting for it to be over. I stared out the plane window as we lifted off. Germany's gray skies vanished under the clouds. My reflection in the glass didn't even look like me anymore, just some guy holding a carry-on and a folded flag, alone. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. You ever feel that kind of silence? Not the kind that happens when people don't know what to say. The kind that chooses not to say anything at all. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. The buzz of the engines was louder than my thoughts, but not louder than the shift in my gut. Something cracked open in there. Not just grief, I'd been living with that since the phone call. This was different. This was the moment I realized I didn't have a family waiting on the other side of the ocean. Not really. When we got married, she told me, your people will become my people. She made good on that. Even after deployments, even after moving from base to base, she showed up for birthdays, video calls, holidays, all of it. She never missed a damn thing. And now, they couldn't be bothered to show up for one pickup. We touched down at LAX just past 3:10. I didn't rush to grab my bag, didn't sprint to the exit. I had no one waiting at the curb, and worse, I didn't expect anyone to be. I stepped through the gate, coat zipped up tight, flag pressed flat between both hands like it weighed more than my whole life. LAX was a blur of noise and faces, people rushing past, dragging roller bags, talking into AirPods like their lives depended on it. Nobody looked at me, nobody paused, just another guy getting off a plane. My boots hit the curb 20 minutes later. No family, no text, nothing. But there was a black SUV right up front, hazard lights blinking slow and steady. 3 of her old squad mates stood beside it, backs straight, chins high. Full dress blues, clean shoes, medals lined up sharp. All 3 of them had flown in on their own dime. Not for me, for her. I stopped walking, just stood there for a second, holding the flag like it was her. I didn't say anything. Neither did they. They didn't need to. That's the thing about people who've seen the same kind of pain. They don't fill silence with noise. They just stand in it with you. One of them stepped forward, Staff Sergeant Hernandez. I recognized him from the photos on her old laptop. He reached out gently and took the box from my other hand, the one with her last medal. His fingers didn't shake, his eyes didn't waver. He held it to his chest like it was sacred. We didn't speak. We just got in the SUV. They rode with me to the rental apartment she picked out the last time we were home together. She'd put up curtains, left coffee in the freezer. A sticky note on the fridge said, "Miss you already." It was still there. Later that night, I sat on the edge of the couch, flag folded beside me, when the news came on. Local segment, soft-spoken anchor, headline read, "Widower returns from overseas funeral, alone." Then the footage rolled. Someone at the terminal must have filmed it. You saw me walk out, dress shoes clicking against the concrete, coat zipped, flag in hand. Then the camera panned, caught the squad in frame. One behind me, one at my left, one at my right, like a damn formation. Anchor said, "A silent welcome home for a grieving husband. No family at the curb. Just 3 strangers in uniform who didn't let him walk alone." Strangers. They weren't strangers. They were more family than my own blood. Camera zoomed in on the handoff, me giving the metal box to Hernandez. You could see the way we moved, careful, like it could break. Then it cut to the flag, tight shot, perfect triangle, no music, no commentary, just that quiet voice saying, "Some returns deserve more than silence." I sat there, elbows on my knees, just breathing. Didn't even realize I'd been holding my breath until the credits rolled. I checked my phone, still nothing in the group chat. Even after that first airing, not a word. Just a blue dot next to the video link my buddy texted, "You made the news." No one from my family said a word. Not, sorry we didn't come, not we saw it, not even a damn emoji. But you know what? That curbside pickup meant more than anything they could have said anyway. Respect doesn't need permission, doesn't need fanfare or a family name. It just shows up. And those three did. The next morning, they re-aired the segment. Same footage, but this time with something I hadn't expected. The note I gave to the reporter before I left the airport. I wrote it on the back of a receipt with a hotel pen. Didn't think they'd use it, but they did. If you ever find yourself standing alone at the edge of grief, the anchor read, slow and clear, don't wait for the ones who left. Watch for the ones who show up. That was it. That's all I wrote. No name, no explanation, no timeline. I didn't need to. When that replay with my note aired the next morning, the family group chat finally blew up. First message, my cousin Allie. Just saw the story. Was that you? Then my aunt. That looked like your squad. Was that her funeral? 3 dots, then more. Like people didn't know what to say, but couldn't help typing anyway. Then silence. All of it just stopped. No one said yes or no. No one confirmed it. They knew. That's why no one kept going. A minute later, my sister-in-law, the one married to my brother, finally texted me direct. Was that you on Channel 4? I looked at it for a second, didn't open it, just stared at the notification on the lock screen. Then I set the phone face down on the kitchen table. I didn't need to reply. I didn't owe anyone anything. That silence in the chat said more than any answer ever could. They knew what they'd done, or didn't do. They saw it all, not just on TV, but in how quiet it got after. And let's be clear, it wasn't shame, not really, it was exposure. They got caught being absent, and that kind of truth doesn't need a name tag. My people didn't need an explanation. Her squad knew who I was the second I stepped off that plane. They didn't ask questions, they didn't need a prompt, they just showed up. And the ones who didn't? Well, now the whole city saw it. Whole damn country probably, the way stuff spreads. You ever watch someone realize they weren't the hero in your story? That's what it felt like. Seeing those typing dots come and go. Watching them all reach for something to say. Something to make it okay again. But there wasn't anything to say. Not anymore. The next day my mom posted a throwback on Facebook. Old photo. Me and my brother, covered in ketchup, standing barefoot by the grill at some 4th of July BBQ in '94. I couldn't have been more than 6. Caption, family first. That was it. 2 words, like they still meant something. Top comment came fast. Didn't even pick him up from the airport. 20 likes in 10 minutes. A couple laughing reacts, then silence. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The internet doesn't care how long you've been lying. It cares how fast it can prove it. An hour later, my brother texted. Didn't think it was that serious. You could have said something. I stared at that message for a full minute, then typed, you made your choice. Sent it. Nothing else. He didn't reply. That was fine. He knew. That week, Channel 4 called. The same station that ran the curbside piece. Said they wanted to do a follow-up. Maybe bring me in. Let me speak in my own words. At first I said no. I wasn't trying to go viral. I wasn't trying to make anyone feel bad. But then I sat with it for a day, and I realized something. Silence keeps the wrong people safe. So I called them back, said I'd do it. Not for the family, not for closure, for every guy who's come back to an empty curb and no welcome, for the ones who lost more than a spouse, the ones who lost their people too. The producer thanked me, said they'd make space in next week's broadcast. Then she asked, real careful, do you want to name anyone? I said, no. I didn't need to. They'd name themselves the second they stayed home. Later that night, I got a voicemail from my cousin. She said, I had no idea it was that deep. I thought you were okay. I didn't call back. Being okay doesn't mean you weren't failed. It just means you stood up anyway. That next morning, I pulled the uniform from the closet, pressed it flat, laid the flag beside it. I wasn't doing this for applause. I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was doing it so someone out there would see the same silence I did. And no, it wasn't their fault. Because grief doesn't just show you who's gone, it shows you who's never coming. The studio was colder than I expected. Carpet underfoot, cameras on rails, but no flashing lights, no chaos. Just a quiet room with a red-on AIR sign glowing steady. The anchor was already seated when they brought me in. Older guy, calm voice, no ego in his handshake. Just looked me in the eye and said, take your time. We sat across from each other, small table between us. 2 mugs of water. He leaned in, elbows on the desk, like he wasn't reading off a teleprompter, like he was actually listening. First question was simple. What happened when you landed? I looked at him, took a breath, then said, clear and steady, I buried my wife with honor. Then I came home to silence. No shaking in my voice, no tears, just the truth. He didn't cut me off. Let me keep going. I messaged my family before I boarded, just asked if someone could pick me up. 1 line, that's it. What did they say? He asked. They said they were busy, told me to call an Uber, said I should have planned ahead. He leaned back, mouth tight, but didn't speak. Just nodded once. I kept going. Told them how no one showed up, not at the airport, not when I got back to the apartment, but her old squad mates, 3 of them flew in, paid their own way, full dress blues, picked me up without saying a word. I paused there, not for drama, just to swallow. I didn't name anyone, not in the news, not now. That's not the point. The anchor asked, so what is the point? I looked straight at him and said, family's not about blood, it's about who shows up. That's the line they used in the headline later. The clip went live at 7:02 p.m., prime time, slotted between traffic and weather. They aired the whole segment, didn't cut a thing. By 9, my inbox was full. Veterans, widowers, Gold Star kids, fathers who'd buried sons, sons who'd buried wives. Messages from men I'd never met who just said, same here, or you put it into words. Some emails were 3 sentences, some were whole pages. One guy wrote, I came home to an empty house and a cold casserole. Thought I was the only one. Another said, I didn't even get a message, just silence, like she never mattered. It poured in like that for days, but not one word in the family group chat. Not a message, not a like, not a saw the piece. Radio silence. You'd think getting called out on live TV would stir something. Guilt, pride, anger, anything. But they just disappeared deeper into the quiet, and I finally saw it for what it was. This wasn't just about grief or absence. It was about what people show you when they think no one's watching. The segment wasn't about revenge. It was a mirror, and some people can't stand to look. 2 days after the segment aired, my mom left the group chat. No message, no explanation, just gone. An hour later, the name changed from fam to just group. My brother did it. I didn't ask, didn't comment, just hit archive and moved on. That silence they gave me, I started giving it right back. But the letters didn't stop. Handwritten, typed, folded in half with no return address. Some were barely a sentence. Others poured out grief like it had been waiting years. One stuck with me. I saw the story. My wife never made it home. You made me feel seen. I read that one twice, sat there with it, hands still holding the page like it might fall apart. And it hit me. I didn't want to be a headline. I wanted to build something, not just for her, for the ones who'd been through the same walk, same flag, same curb. That's how the Welcome Back project started. A simple idea, nothing fancy, just a pickup team for military spouses flying back alone. No uniforms, no speeches, just someone at the curb with a sign that says, "We're here." The first volunteer team showed up at O'Hare. Young widow, 31, flying in from Virginia. Her husband died in Afghanistan 6 months prior. She'd buried him, flew home, and figured she'd get her own Uber. Instead, 3 strangers were there, holding a sign, holding space. Photo of that moment went viral, not because it was flashy, but because it was human. That was the whole point. Presence, not pity. We started building from there. Word spread. More airports, more pickups, more people saying yes when no one else had. Then I saw the donation come in. Big one, anonymous. But the bank name on the wire transfer, same local branch my brother used. Same city, same transaction style. I knew it was him. Still no message, no text, no, "Hey, I saw what you're doing." Just the money, quiet help. I didn't respond. He'd already picked his side the first time around. And this wasn't about redemption. This was about doing what should have been done from the start. Because grief doesn't give you points for showing up late. But maybe, just maybe, it gives you one more shot to show up for someone else. It wasn't my idea, but it didn't matter. Someone else organized the candlelight vigil for returning spouses, not me. They did it quietly, without fanfare, without calling attention to who wasn't there. I just showed up. Dozens of people lined the park, standing in a loose circle, each holding a candle. The warm glow flickered against the cool evening air. A kid, maybe 12, stood at the center with a guitar, strumming soft chords. When he started singing "Carry You Home," something in me cracked. It was like hearing my wife's voice again, soft and steady, like she was still here. I didn't let myself fall apart, but it wasn't easy. I stood there, watching the flickering flames, feeling the weight of every single person around me, each of them holding on to their own version of grief. Then I saw him, my brother. He was standing at the edge of the circle, a little off to the side, same place he always stood when he wasn't sure where he belonged. His hands were shoved deep in his jacket pockets, his shoulders hunched. He wasn't with the group. He wasn't even really part of it. He was just watching. I didn't move toward him, didn't say a word. He didn't come to me either. We just stood there across the distance. Neither of us made a sound. The next morning, his text came through, a little late, like he'd been thinking about it all night. Didn't think it'd get this big. I stared at the screen for a while before I replied. Then I typed, "Grief builds walls or bridges. You picked your side." I hit send, and then I put the phone down. No response. None. That was fine, because it wasn't about proving anything anymore. I wasn't trying to get him to understand. I wasn't trying to make him see me or make him feel guilty. It wasn't about any of that. It was about building something he never did, something I didn't need permission for, something real, something that would make the people who showed up feel like they weren't the only ones left standing alone in the dark. That vigil wasn't for me, but it wasn't for him either. It was for every person who finally found a way home. Flowers on the porch didn't stop. Neither did the volunteers. Every morning, there was a new stack of cards, from strangers, from friends of friends. Some of them said they'd been following the Welcome Back project from the beginning. Others were just showing up because they saw a need. One afternoon, a woman drove up with a van full of supplies. "This is for your pickups," she said, handing me a box full of homemade signs. She'd driven in from 3 states away, said she'd seen a post on a local blog and just couldn't not help. Her sign said, "We're here." I didn't have to ask for any of it. It just showed up. By the end of the second month, we had teams running pickups at 6 different airports. Volunteer drivers, sign holders, even people in uniforms who didn't have anyone to pick up, but just wanted to be there, to be seen. It spread fast. The project felt like it was bigger than me now, bigger than anything I could have planned. I was just the one who gave it a name. Everyone else did the work. One day my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. I let it go to voicemail. It was my mom. "I didn't think you wanted us there," she said, voice quiet, like it wasn't a question. I didn't listen to the rest. I didn't need to. I deleted the message, not out of spite, out of peace. Because peace isn't about proving a point. It's about letting go of the things that never should have mattered in the first place. It was hard not to be angry, but it wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't about him. It wasn't about revenge. It was about replacing what never arrived. The people who didn't show up at the airport. The ones who left without ever looking back. The Welcome Back project wasn't just a response. It wasn't just filling a hole. It was showing up where others didn't. It was proving that there were people who cared, even if they hadn't always been the ones I expected. That's what mattered. The ones who showed up, even when no one else would. I was invited to speak at a local memorial. Nothing formal, just a story. They told me to keep it short. So I did. I stood at the podium, looked out at the crowd, a mix of familiar faces and strangers, people who'd come for their own reasons. I cleared my throat, tried to steady myself. "I sent one message," I said. "I landed at the airport, and no one came. I told them about the squad, the flag, the SUV, about the silence. How the absence wasn't just painful. It exposed something deeper, something that didn't show up in the funeral programs or the salutes. Then I talked about my wife, how she'd told me once, a long time ago, if anything ever happens to me, don't let them forget." I hadn't. The crowd clapped when I finished. A few of them stood. Some whispered among themselves, others wiped their eyes. The applause felt like a strange relief, but I didn't need it. It wasn't about them. As I stepped down from the stage, a woman grabbed my arm. She was shaking, tears in her eyes. She whispered, "You helped my son's wife last week." I nodded, not sure what to say. Then, across the room, I saw them, my mother and brother, standing at the edge of the crowd, out of place, like they'd only come because they had to. I didn't wave, didn't speak. They weren't part of this chapter anymore. They'd removed themselves long before. And me? I was already moving forward, surrounded by the kind of people who showed up without needing to be asked. And that was everything.